I'm just going to give a little bit of introduction about the ladies. Oh, do I need a mic with her? I'm loud. I don't think we need a mic today. Does anybody think we need a mic today? I don't think we do.
Very clear.
I think we're fine. So I think we'll be good, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. My name is Azima Rahman. Brother Yasin asked me to introduce these lovely ladies here today. So just want to say a little bit about the program that they have come to present. It's the Foster Parenting Program. It's a collaborative program between ISGH and Catholic Charities that just began this year, right? It's an initiative to raise awareness in the Muslim community to across the greater Houston area about foster parenting and how to become a foster parent to meet the growing needs to care for Muslim and non-Muslim children who come to US alone without parents or legal guardians under the Unaccompanied Refugee Minor Program. We have Jasmine Payne and Geneva with her from Catholic Charities to give us an introductory and informational session on foster parenting services that Catholic Charities provide. Jasmine is a licensed master social worker and has been working with Catholic Charities St. Jerome Emiliana program for 3 years as the lead foster home development specialist. And Geneva has a long profile and bio. I'm going to shrink it down, Geneva, if you're okay with that. She moved from Florida, resides in Alvin, born New Yorker, of course, Staten Island. She has a Bachelor in Professional Studies and Human Services, Master in Science with Social and Community Services, and certification as Registered Behavioral Technician, and now works as a certification on a board-certified behavioral analyst. Wow, that's a bunch of degrees, right? A total of 20 years of experience working in mental health, IDD, and autism, human resources, and child welfare. She's the youngest of 7 children, mother of 3 sons, 1 daughter, grandmother of 3 boys, 1 girl, and she has a lot of wonderful activities she loves to do. Yeah. I'll just skip over.
You summed it up.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to give the floor to them. They'll go ahead and talk a little bit about foster parenting. Of course, you can see she has flyers up here. You all can ask whatever you want, since it's a very informal session. Yes. There you go, guys.
Thank you guys for being here. Again, I'm Jasmine Payne. I'm the lead foster home development specialist with our program. Our foster care program, first and foremost, it is an international foster care program. So we only serve unaccompanied refugee minors. And so we have partnered with ISGH because we are anticipating and seeing a large influx of youth coming from Afghanistan. And we really want to make sure that we have families for them that can be culturally appropriate for them. And so we're reaching out to the community, and ISGH is helping us to do that so we can make sure that we have families for these youth. So that's just kind of how we ended up here. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about our program. The youth we serve. We'll talk to you a little bit about the steps in becoming a foster parent as well. Okay, we are a little bit of a smaller group. As actually said, it's more about the quality than the quantity. So if you have questions as we're going through, don't hesitate to ask. But then we'll also leave room at the end to ask questions as well. We are having an online virtual orientation tomorrow. If you're interested in attending that, if you don't feel like you got all the information you need today, you're more than welcome to attend that as well, okay? We'll have a sign-up sheet if you're interested in moving forward or if you're interested in joining our orientation tomorrow, okay? So let's go ahead and just dive right in. This first kind of quote that you're seeing up here, it's from one of our current foster parents. So she's just stating that her experience as a foster parent has been exciting and memorable. The program has been so great in helping me, leading me through this process. She's motivated in many different ways and has learned so much about being a foster parent. And she's so happy for the opportunity that God has given the children to come here and to help find a home and a family. So this is a photo of her and her foster children and her biological children. So they all have come together as a family at this time. So just to talk to you a little bit about our program, our agency first. We're looking to bring help and hope to people in need, especially the poor and the vulnerable. We have a lot of different programs that we work with inside of our agency. So We do have a clinician on staff, but we utilize our counseling department within our agency as well in case their caseload gets a little too large. Our mission at Catholic Charities is guided by God's love. Catholic Charities helps people in Southeast Texas by providing caring, compassionate services and advocating for social justice in collaborations with parishes and communities. And our vision is people of faith, helping people in need live with dignity. We are a healing ministry within the Archdiocese, but we are separate from the church. Therefore, as an agency, we may have some separate rules and views, but we still adhere to some of the traditions, faith, and values of the Catholic Church, and our services are closely related to those beliefs. But the big thing with the youth in our program, they're going to have different religion backgrounds than Catholic Charities. And so we want the youth to be able to stay in touch with whatever their religious beliefs are and be able to practice those things. And so that is something that we definitely make sure that we instill in our foster parents, no matter what type of youth that they have in their homes. So now we'll talk about our program. I know that's what some of you guys are here. Let's hear about the foster care program, right? So we are looking to recruit loving foster families for youth that come into the U.S. without appropriate parent or caregiver. Our foster parents are here to provide ongoing support for each of the youth to help them adjust to life in the U.S. And then we want to help them prepare for self-sufficiency when they reach adulthood. So a couple of things with that. We do accept youth into our program between the ages of 0 and 17. We accept youth into our program between the ages of 0 and 17. The average age of the youth in our program, though, is about 14, 15, and we usually don't see youth younger than 9 or 10. And that all has to do with kind of the journey they have to take to get here. And then a lot of families are not willing to send some of their younger children by themselves. So a lot of times our youth, once they get here, they're teenagers, and a lot of them are males as well. But we do have younger children sometimes. We do have female youth that we also want to serve. But that's just typically what we're seeing on our referral list. A common misconception is that we get our youth from CPS. We do not get our youth from CPS. We are not attached to domestic foster care in that way. We get our youth from our funders. They have a referral list that's sent to us. So that's the Office of Refugee Resettlement and the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. And so essentially what happens is there are youth who have fled their country. So if they fled their country to another country that's not the U.S., they may have received their refugee status there and then come to the U.S.
So do they typically still have parents in their original countries?
Yes, a lot of our youth still have parents in their country of origin. And so they still communicate with them. They may have phone calls with them. They may have video chats with them. They may send letters. So they may still be connected to their family back in their country of origin. Some of them also may have family here in the United States. It may not be parents, it may be like grandparents, aunts, brothers, uncles. And if we can, we want to connect them with those family members as well. We call that reunification. So if there's the opportunity to connect them and have them be their long-term caregivers, we want to do that. But a lot of times it's very rare for our program for a couple of reasons. Sometimes people don't feel like they have the capabilities to provide that long-term care for the youth. And sometimes they just don't want to. So they end up being in our foster care program for a long period of time. That's another large difference between our international program and domestic foster care. In domestic foster care, you see a little bit more of a revolving door. It could be between 6 months and 2 years, and then the youth is being reunified with their family. For our youth, they can come to you at 8 or 9 and be with you until they're 21. And so we call it long-term placement. So they're typically with you for a very long period of time.
So I've heard, in domestic, where they stay in one foster, families, and then they move to another foster families like that. For international, children, how is it typically?
Yeah, so our goal is once they get placed in a home, we want them to stay in that home. That's our goal. But there are sometimes things that come up where we have to move a youth, or where a family doesn't feel comfortable having the youth in their home. So the families have the opportunity to say, hey, we don't know that this is a good fit for us, and they can put in what we call a 30-day notice. And so basically what that's saying is that this isn't a good fit for us, and it gives the program at least 30 days to find another placement for the youth. But the goal is for once we put them in your home, they're with you until they're discharged from the program. That's the goal.
Which is the age of 21.
So yeah, so they stay in our program until 21. However, if they're still pursuing their high school diploma, they can stay in the program until they're 22.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
At
Until
8.
high school is finished.
Yep. At the age of 18, though, they do have the opportunity to go into our supervised independent living program. And so basically, they'll be in their own apartment. We do require them to either be working or furthering their education. And they have a case manager that's kind of there to help them navigate through adult life. So they can apply for that at the age of 18. Some of our youth do that. Some of our youth feel like they're going to be under the roof of their foster parents forever. We kind of have to let them know at some point we want you to kind of be adults, get out there in the world. But it just depends on the youth, the attachment they have with you, how soon they may go into that independent living program. We do accept sibling groups as well, and we also accept teenagers that may have their own children. So that's typically, if we get any infants in our program, that's typically how we get them, because the children that are our clients have their own kids. So that's typically how we see infants, but typically we do not see infants or toddlers. If we do have siblings in the program, we do try to keep them together. A lot of times if we can't keep them together, they won't put them in our program, because the idea is to try and keep the families together. We do offer, quickly, we get youth from all over the world. It really kind of just depends on what's going on in the world at the time. Our biggest population of youth right now are actually coming from Guatemala and Honduras. But again, we're anticipating a large influx of youth coming from Afghanistan. We've started to see them on the referral list already, and a lot of East Coast states have already seen a large population of youth coming on their referral list. So we expect to see that influx happen pretty soon. There may be a language barrier in your home. There may not be a language barrier in the home. But we do have MasterWord, which is a 24/7 interpretation line. So foster parents can use it, the kids can use it, staff can use it, and it's just a way to be able to communicate with the youth in their language. It's 24/7, so you can call at any time. You can have interpretation services over the phone or in person, whatever you request when you call, you reach out to them. So just to talk a little bit about the youth that are eligible for our program, we have our refugee minors. Those are the ones that we were kind of talking about that receive their refugee status in another country and then come here. We have our asylum minors. So those are the youth who have crossed the border or entered through a port entry or something like that. When they first got here, they were unaccompanied children, so they didn't have any documentation or anything like that. But since they've been here in the United States, they have received their legal status or found a clear path to their legal status, and then they become unaccompanied refugee children. So there's 3 ways that our youth are looking to get their legal status. The first way is our asylum-seeking minors. So those are youth that fled their country due to some type of violence, whether that's gang violence, civil wars, religious persecution, anything like that. They're seeking that, they're asylum-seeking minors. We do have trafficking victims, so human trafficking. So they're seeking T visas or U visas. So there may have been some type of domestic servitude situation that they were in, slavery-like conditions, sexual human trafficking, any of those, and they're looking for those T visas and U visas, and that's why they fled their country. And then we have our special immigrant juvenile status. So those are youth who have fled their country due to any type of abuse or neglect from their parent or guardian at the time. So our youth are either have their legal status or have a clear path through one of those ways. With our Afghan youth, they've created this kind of humanitarian way or method that they can get their legal status, and so a lot of them are starting to utilize that to get here as well. One important thing to know, we are not a state-funded program like CPS or Domestic Foster Care is. We are funded by the federal government, so ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement. And so we have a lot of federal government policies and procedures that we have to abide by, not just state regulations. So that's another important thing for you guys to know, the difference between our program and domestic foster care.
What makes the big difference?
I'm sorry.
Because I don't know one for another.
Yeah, so domestic foster care, our CPS, kind of your local agencies, all of their youth are from here in the United States. Usually something happened with their parents are trying to rectify whatever the situation is, and unification is the number one goal, and it typically is going to happen. With our program, it's just international youth. Reunification is a lot less of a possibility. When you hear about kind of these stories of people coming into the homes and taking children because of the conditions that they're in, that's more on the domestic side versus our international foster care side. There may be times where something happens and we do have to come in and get the children, but it's not as extensive and it's not as frequent as you see or hear about in those kind of domestic foster care programs.
So these children are actually going to be here because their families actually sent them.
Mm-hmm. Most of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of them have maybe been in a shelter or a detention center or something like that, and found out that they don't have any family that is willing to take care of them here. So that's when they look to put them in the foster care programs.
So like you mentioned, sometimes they have parents, sometimes they don't have parents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sometimes
so-
they have parents that are in their country of origin. Sometimes their parents may have passed away. Sometimes their parents may have been the ones that were abusing or neglecting them, and that's why they left. So it really just depends on the child's situation. It's different for everyone. We do offer education services to our youth as well. All of the youth that come here are enrolled in school. They're typically enrolled in a school in your district. And we have an education coordinator on staff that's there to help with any educational needs that the youth may have. If you're struggling with advocating for the youth at school, the education coordinator is there to help you with that as well. They also complete what we call a best test assessment, and so this helps us determine the youth's English proficiency. And so they test them every 6 months. That's important to know because they can score between a 0 and 10. They score a 7 or below, they have to have an interpreter at any of their appointments. So their medical appointments, dental appointments, if they're in counseling, they have to have an interpreter there. They score an 8 and above, it's their choice. At that point, it's assessed that they can comprehend and understand enough to be able to make decisions without having to have that interpreter there. We also have tutors in our program. They are volunteer tutors, and so they're there to help with ESL. While I want everybody to become a foster parent, if you're looking to volunteer in other ways, you can also become a tutor. We have a tutor coordinator who helps kind of help you know how to tutor, especially in the English language. So that is also an opportunity for you if you don't want to become a foster parent.
So if we were to foster, they will go to basically also the schools that we are in, right? Like, you know, where your house is, whatever.
Yes.
And then, so is it expected of the foster parents to then, you know, like, coordinate with the school and like that they need help with the language and all these things?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Yeah.
Between.
Exactly. So essentially what happens is we give you all the information you need so you can go into the schools and enroll the youth, help the youth get whatever services they need. But the education coordinator is there in case you don't know how to navigate or what they do need and all of those things. So the education coordinator is there to help with that. But yes, once they get into the school system, you're the parent at that point. So we give you all the information you need to give the school so they understand that you're their guardian, you're taking care of them, things like that. Mm-hmm.
I guess you're going to talk about this and you know, as you go on with your presentation, but in terms of visitations by the charities, whoever's in charge, as well as providing the resources for the children, even though they are placed in our homes, so there you have that added cushion, I guess, of support with your services. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Because it relates to these children.
Right.
the foster children.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so essentially the youth are going to have their own case manager.
Correct.
And so they're kind of there to advocate for the youth. And so they'll be there to help the youth with whatever they need. If the youth feels like there's something to talk about, the case manager is going to be there. But then the foster parents are going to have a foster home developer. And they're there to kind of advocate for the foster parents. So any needs that you may have, any questions that you may have, the foster home developer is there. But we're all working together to help with whatever needs are in the home. We also have a clinician on staff that's there to help. We have our education coordinator. We have an independent living skills coordinator, and so they're there to help teach these kids the independent living skills they may need. So whether that's cleaning their room, learning how to cook, learning how to budget money, they're kind of there to help the youth navigate through those things. So we really have somebody on staff to help with each kind of aspect in the foster care system.
Along with therapists and all, if you
Mhm.
need so.
Yep.
So all those needs that you are talking about are taken care of in monetary way by your services.
Correct. So
Okay.
there's a
That's not something the foster
That's
parent is
expected.
responsible for in terms of therapy or tutors or anything like that.
right. So our tutors are volunteer. They're on a volunteer basis.
Correct.
Our clinician, we have a clinician on staff, so it's not going to be a cost to foster parents. Our youth do have their own insurance. If they're 18 and younger, they'll have Medicaid. If they're 19 and older, they'll have PCU, which is Point Comfort Underwriters. And so that will help or mostly take care of a lot of their medical needs, dental needs, all of those things.
Okay.
But then we also do provide a reimbursement. So you get a daily reimbursement, and it depends on the level of care of the youth. So we have 3 levels of care. We have basic, moderate, and specialized. Our basic youth, it's a $50 a day reimbursement. For our moderate and specialized youth, they're considered therapeutic, and it's a $65 a day reimbursement.
So like for clinicians that you're talking about, or these, psychologists,
Mhm.
and do we travel all the way to Galveston to take them?
So our main office location is in Midtown, in Houston, and so our clinician is housed there. That's where her office is at. However, we have people spread from Galveston to Richmond. We're kind of all over the place. So she will work with trying to find community spots where she can meet or have services at, so the foster parent doesn't have to travel all the way to Midtown, especially if your youth is going to counseling services a little bit more frequently. Right now, everything is happening virtually because
I
of
was
the
gonna say
pandemic.
that.
Yeah. I don't know when we're going to go back to doing things in person, but right now everything is happening virtually.
Okay. And if there's any hospital visits or anything of that nature, broken bones,
Mhm.
playing sports or those kind of things, those kind of care is taking, how does
Yeah.
one navigate through that?
The insurance should take care of those things. And when it comes to doctors, hospitals, dentists, all of those things, you can find one in your area,
Okay,
as long as it takes the insurance of our youth.
okay.
We also do assessments. We do psychological assessments and comprehensive assessments on our youth. A lot of the information we have about our youth when they first come to the program is self-reported. So there may be gaps in the information, and so we use these assessments to kind of fill in those gaps so we have a better understanding of where the youth is coming from, if they have any educational delays, developmental delays, mental health needs, anything like that. We use the assessments to figure that out. So we talked about case management already. The youth will have a case manager, foster parents will have a foster home developer. They're going to come into your home to do visits. Case managers come at minimum once a month. The foster home developers at minimum come every 90 days. When the youth first comes into the home, you'll see staff a little bit more frequently than that. They're trying to help make sure everybody is accommodating well, adjusting well. And then after that, it just depends on what kind of support you and the youth needs, how frequently they come into your home. We also have the independent living skill classes for our youth. That happens on the first Saturday of every month, and it's usually from 10 to 12. Again, right now it's virtually, but usually that's in person, and it is held at our Midtown location, so you do have to drive to the Midtown location for that. And that's the first Saturday of every month. But while the youth are in their independent living class, independent skills class, foster parents are in a foster parent training class, because there is training that foster parents have to do throughout the year. Because we have to maintain a minimum of 40 hours a year, we always exceed the 40 hours of training per year for our foster parents.
Okay, so I had a question about how if a parent, the foster parent, is traveling, you
Mhm.
know, vacation or whatever reason
Sure.
that they are, what is the expectation
Mhm.
of your organization when it comes to that? Because if we're treating it as a one family unit and they are part of your family, how does that work?
Please take them with you.
Okay.
Please. But if it's in the States, the youth can travel with you. If you're going outside of the U.S.,
Yes.
it depends on where they are in their legal status. So if they have their legal permanent residency, they will be able to travel with you outside of the state.
Okay.
If they don't have that yet, they will have to provide what we call respite, because the youth won't be able to travel with you outside of this
So
state.
respite would be a temporary care for them
Correct.
while you are away.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so,
Is that something?
that is one of the ways you can become a foster parent. So if you're not willing, if you think maybe being a long-term parent is too much, then maybe a lot,
Yeah.
you can be just a respite home. And so the youth aren't in your home for an extended period of time. They're usually not in your home more than 7 to 14 days. Typically, it's like a weekend.
Okay, so, oh, I completely.
Sorry.
Completely went out my.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just trying to think in terms of, so the respite care is something you have chosen. It's not something that as a foster parent, we get to choose. Like, for example, my sister lives here, and you would have to vet that probably to see if they can qualify for that.
So your sister could be a backup caregiver.
Okay.
And so that's even shorter time than a respite home. So say you just need a break and you need to go shopping for a couple hours and take a break from your kids. You can ask your sister to be a backup caregiver.
Okay.
And so she won't be a foster parent, but there will be some trainings and things that she'll have to go through just because she's going to be supervising our youth.
Okay.
And so there's like 4
Okay.
trainings she'll have to do.
Okay.
But she won't have to become a foster parent.
Should have to-
Mhm.
Foster parent is basically, I've taken adoption information seminars as well, is a totally different entity than the adoption part, right?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
this is more like you are partnering
Mhm.
with your organization to take care of international youth.
Correct.
You, okay,
Yep.
okay,
And so we look at it in 3 different points. Like, so there's the person that has legal responsibility of the youth,
yeah,
there's the person that gave birth to the youth, and
Yeah.
then there's the person that's caring for the youth.
okay,
So in foster care, there's 3 different entities for them. So the agency has the legal responsibility, the foster parent is caring for the youth, they have that nurturing responsibility, then they have their biological parent that gave birth to them.
okay,
In adoption, the legal responsibility and the nurturing and caring falls under the parent,
correct.
and then they have a birth parent. So that's kind of how to view foster care versus adoption.
Okay, perfect.
A big question people usually have is, can you adopt the youth in our program? We are just a foster care program. However, you can adopt the youth if you want to. It's very rare because of the age of our youth. Sometimes they're too old to go through the adoption process. Sometimes they don't want to be adopted because they do still have that connection with their family. But if they're young enough and you're willing and the youth is willing, you can go through the adoption process, and we just connect you with an adoption agency to be able to do that. We want our foster parents to be committed, caring, loving, open, non-judgmental, understanding of cultural diversity. We want you to be loving and nurturing. We do have some general requirements for foster parents. You have to be at least 25 years old. You have to be married or single, non-cohabitating individuals, financially stable. While we do provide a reimbursement, we are federally funded, so we never know what's going to happen with the reimbursements sometimes. So we wanted to make sure that you guys are capable of taking care of the youth in case anything happens with the reimbursements. Have adequate living space. So what that means is if you have 1 to 2 youth in a bedroom, there has to be at least 80 square feet in that room. Any additional youth you have in that room, there has to be an additional 40 square feet. Okay? You have the option about how many youth you want to take into your home. You'll have preferences, which is fine. And we'll talk to you all about those things. You can have up to 5 kids in your home, and that includes your biological children. We want you to be in good physical and emotional health, be able to clear all background checks, have the ability to attend pre-service training. We'll talk a little bit about that soon, and submit to a home study. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And then maintain those 40 hours of training, which we exceed every year. But all trainings that you're required to take are free of charge to you. And they do have to be, if you're a 2-parent household, they do have to be taken by both foster parents. What happened to my chapters? I went straight to the blessings. So some rewards with becoming a foster parent: you are giving the youth a choice at a better life. You are teaching children. You're gonna affect positive change in the youth, and you're gonna kind of gain a global understanding of the world. I tell people all the time, I've been in the program for a little over 3 years, and I'm still learning about languages I never knew about. I'm still learning about countries I never knew existed. So you're gonna continuously be learning about multiple different cultures. You're gonna be a part of a professional and collaborative team. When we're a full team, there's 17 of us, and we're all working together to help you and the youth be successful. And then you're gonna be creating lifelong connections. So you always say the youth have to discharge from our program at some point, but we never necessarily want them to discharge from you. We have a lot of foster parents whose kids have been out of their home for 5 to 10 years, and they're still coming back for holidays. If they're coming on rough times, they'll go and stay with them, things like that. So we really want them to be able to rely on you as they move through their adulthood and kind of grow up.
Sorry to interrupt you. I have like 9 minutes.
Oh, that's okay, because we're going to tell you how you can become a foster parent.
There you go.
We talked, there are 3 ways you become a foster parent. You can be a long-term placement home, so that's when we place the youth in your home. They're with you hopefully until they discharge. You can be that respite home. So typically youth are there no longer than 7 to 14 days. Typically it's a weekend. And that home is really just by providing support to our long-term placement homes. And then you can be an assessment home. So our assessment homes, youth are usually there between 30 and 90 days. And we get all the information we need during that time to determine what a good long-term placement home is for the youth. So those are the 3 ways you can become a foster parent with our program. You can do one or the other. You can do 2 at the same time. You can be one starting off and then change later. It's all up to you. But because of that, we have everybody go through the same process. So our process, you'll technically do an orientation right now. This would count for you as orientation. Then you would have to complete an online questionnaire that you can find on our website. Then you'll do a phone intake. We'll talk to you a little bit about some basic things in your home. You'll do a final application. You'll do a final application and a background check. So it gets a little bit more in depth about like your employment history, your education history, your family makeup. You'll provide us with some references. Once you do that and complete your background check, everybody in your home over the age of 14 has to complete a background check. Then we move into some documentation. There's a lot of documentation you have to turn in, things like your driving record, car insurance, home insurance, things like that. And then we'll get into trainings. Trainings will be the next step. There'll be some online trainings. We'll kind of at your own pace. We'll send you the links. You'll complete those. Then we have Pride. Pride is the biggest one I really want to talk to you guys about. It is a 35-hour training course. It's split up into 10 sessions. Each session is about 3 to 4 hours long. Both foster parents have to take it, and you have to take them in order. And so it's just a time where we're teaching you everything you need to know about the foster care system, what type of youth are in the foster care system, what brings youth into the foster care system, and how to parent those youth. So it's a lot of information, and it gives you kind of a good idea of what you're kind of getting yourself into, so you can make a good decision about whether or not being a foster parent is for you. Once all the trainings and documents and things are done, you do your home study. I tell everybody home studies where you become a best friend with a staff member that's doing your home study, because they're going to ask you all the questions from when you're a child until now. It's about 3 to 4 interviews. Each interview is about 2 to 3 hours long. And we're just going to sit down and talk to you about everything that's ever happened to you. We do that because it helps us understand a little bit about who you are, but it also gives us a good idea about what kind of placement we should put in your home as well, because we want everybody to be successful.
Do you provide therapy after that?
PTSD.
We can
or
talk-
whatever.
we can-
need one.
We can add that in there. We can.
That would help. Okay. You're bringing up a lot of things.
Yeah.
So if, I have a question on the house that's like for 30 to
Okay, 5
Yeah,
minutes.
fine.
30 to whatever days, remember? So there are 3 houses, right? Like
Mhm.
one is like for 7 to 14 days.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And the
respite
other-
care, yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one is 30 to.
30 to 90 days.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like, so the kids will, if the kids will go to school only for those 30 days, like in our area, then they can move again?
So typically, right now, we don't have any respite homes, so that's not happening. But
Oh.
typically, if we do, we would want the respite homes to kind of be in the
All
assessment
the
homes to
same
be in the
area.
same
Oh,
area.
okay, okay,
Mhm.
okay.
Makes
So we
sense.
won't have to do that, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once the home study is done, we then take you to the approval committee where our whole staff kind of talks about what we learned about you guys through the process. And from there, we determine whether or not we think you're a good fit for our program. But through the entire process, we also want you to be deciding whether or not our program is a good fit for you, right?
Right.
And so we're kind of, both of us should be doing that assessment as we're going through the entire process. At minimum, it takes about 3 months. That's at minimum. That's if there's no hiccups, no obstacles. I always refer back to the freeze. That was a huge obstacle. Those families took a little bit longer than 3 months to get things done. But at minimum, it takes about 3 months to become a foster parent.
Okay.
From the online questionnaire?
From the
until it's
online
finished?
questionnaire
Mhm.
to the end.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So like our next Pride will be in May.
Okay.
So once you get done with Pride, you go right into your home study process.
Okay. No.
Okay.
That kind of sums up our informational session. If you feel like you need more information, again, you can attend our orientation tomorrow. Just make sure you give us your email and your phone number, and we'll send you the link for it. It is virtual on Zoom. If you don't need an orientation and you know you want to move forward, you can also put your name and phone number and stuff down here so we can make sure to get you the information you need. If you have somebody that you need to talk to about it first, that's fine. We understand that too. You can put your information down. We'll send you a summary of everything we talked about today, so you can talk with them. You can talk it over with them.
And I guess the real purpose, although a lot of us are here, is that you don't have a lot of the Muslim households,
Correct.
and not only in foster care, but also in respite care.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the term in the middle, I guess?
Assessment.
I'm sorry?
Assessment.
Assessment, okay.
Mhm.
So you don't have any Muslim families
Correct.
in all of those categories?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is from the get-go? How old did your program now?
So our program has been around since 2003.
Okay.
Now we've had families that have been culturally appropriate in the past, but right now in this one we don't have any.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, and you're saying with the countries that are coming through, Afghanistan being one of them, that is who you need?
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That helps a lot.
Were you guys successful in any of your other meetings to attract anybody?
Yes, actually we have been. We have a couple of families that are going through the process right now.
That's good.
So hopefully, if you guys decide to come foster parents with us, you'll have other people that can tell you a little bit about how their experience has been. But yeah, we do currently have some people that are going through the process right now, which we're really excited about. So
Okay,
yeah.
perfect, perfect. And then you have all of this information on a website somewhere?
Yes, all the
Okay.
information. Oh, it's not on here. All this information is on CatholicCharities.org.
Catholic Charities?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can take a flyer or a brochure. It has all of that information on it too. It has our website and my
Okay.
contact information. So
Okay.
you can take that home with you as well.
We put it all together for you, so you can just.
Perfect, perfect. That's exactly what we do. Thank you.
Yep. So I know that we're kind of short on time. Anybody has any questions, we'll kind of hang out.
We
for a
have-
while. But we always know sometimes you.
Here, so.
Yeah, my
if you
card
have
is
any
here if you have
the
questions
contact
too.
card is here, you can take all this information.
I am good at having questions after
I'll stick
I
the card in
leave
there.
somewhere, so please don't
Okay.
hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, okay?
We wanted to thank you for coming here. We want to thank you for doing such a beautiful job with the seminar, with the quality of people that are here. I really appreciate that, and hopefully more of us can show up and take ownership to, take this project further, because it's a great project and the kids do need it.
Yeah, and please, if you know anybody else that may be interested, or maybe you don't want to be a foster parent, but you want to volunteer in some type of way, that's a possibility too. So
Sounds
the more that we're connected to your community, the better it's going to be for our youth and our foster parents. So.
And mashallah, this is a wonderful cause that you guys are working for.
Thank you.
Noble cause, I would say.
Very noble cause. I agree. Very noble cause.
And thank you guys, just even if you don't continue, thank you for your interest. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. Yeah.
But we have there will know someone who we could talk to, and he's already a foster parent, so just kind of talk one-on-one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And I can talk with you after. We can connect you with somebody just to have a conversation. Sure. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I forgot to ask one question. I know you mentioned it. Most of these kids are boys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not often get like girls for any particular reason you don't get them, or?
Just because people feel more comfortable with sending the boys on their own journeys, but
But-
we do get females as well.
I think the top one did not have a card in it.
That's okay.
Oh,
Yeah. It should be on.
no, the reason I was asking, especially for trafficked kids, most of those are women. Also,
Yes.
those are girls. So do you not get like?
We do. We
you
definitely get girls. We just get more boys
More
than we
boys
do
than
girls.
that. Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
It was very informative.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you guys.